learning how to read a label will make it very easy for you to determine which yarn would be right for which project. So all yarn labels are going to have some iteration of the information in this black box. The way that they display it or arrange it on the yarn may vary, but the information will all be the same. All right. If you look in this upper left-hand corner and you see knitting needles, this information is irrelevant for you at this point. Unless you are deciding to start knitting, you do not need to know what size knitting needles pertain to this yarn. What you need to be concerned about is the box below that, the fabric care instructions, the yarn material, and the yardage. All right? So let's jump in with the hook. I'm going to pull it as close as I can. See that? It says I9 5.5, and it should give you 12 single crochets and 15 rows in a 4x4 inch gauge swatch. Okay? I know that was a mouthful. I know that you haven't covered gauges with me, and you may or may not have done the hooks, but I will explain. The I9 5.5 millimeters is the size of the hook. Okay? And that information will often be found on the thumb bed of the hook. Okay, so the measurement here, US I9 5.5 millimeter, is going to be somewhere on the crochet hook, and more often than not, that it's going to be in this thumb bed. Okay, this is not the same size that we should be using for the yarn that I'm talking about, but I wanted you to see where it would typically be. This information is the size of the hook that would work best for the thickness of this yarn. I'm going to say that again. The label contains the information for the crochet hook that would work best with the weight of the yarn you are using. That does not mean that this is the only hook that you can use on this yarn. It just means that based on the recommendations, I9 will give you the best fabric from the yarn. It will allow you not to do it too tight and not too loose. Right. So briefly going over gauge, because that's a whole nother topic. 12 single crochets and 12 rows. So what they're saying is if you use a I9 and crochet 4x4 inch square, you should have 12 single crochets in the row going across and 15 rows of 12 single crochets. Okay? I have used hooks size F and G on this very same yarn and have had no issue. Again, it is merely a recommendation. And all it is indicating, like I said, is the number of stitches and rows that you can get out of a certain amount of space. Okay? And again, I'll go over gauge in another video. Next, let's move on to here. So as you can see, when we covered the chart, it had that yarn symbol, right? Medium 4 in a little skein of yarn on the label. All right, that is another indication that this is a worsted weight yarn. It is a number 4 yarn, all right? These are all of the care and washing instructions. I am not. All right, coming up here. This is what your yarn is made out of. It is 100% acrylic. Acrylic yarn. Here is net. So this is giving you how much yarn is contained in the skein that you're buying, right? You get 355 yards in this skein of yarn. So when you are looking for projects, so let's say example, you want to make a baby blanket. You need to know how much yarn it's going to take to make that blanket so that you know how much yarn you need to buy for that blanket, okay? You're going to need more than one skein of yarn. 355 is not enough. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you need 2, all right? Flipping this over, at this backside right here, you can see lot number, art number, color number, name, and the name of the yarn, color. This information will be somewhere on this on a label. it will not be in the same place for different brands. So you have to look at the entire thing to find the information you are looking for. As the contents of the fabric, 100% acrylic, the same thing there. It has your care instructions down here at the bottom. Have them right there as well. This actually has the written out care instructions on the label, and the Hobby Lobby one does not. It only has the symbols. So there's another difference. It gives you the exact care instructions for, and in Spanish, for your yarn. Now let's flip this over. Hobby Lobby's has white and their dye lot right above it. Okay, so the color name right here in the dye lot. This is the material, the color name, and this is the dye lot. This random number right here is the dye lot, right? Now you see how it's kind of just randomly printed on? It looks like a stamp or something. It's not like part of the label as far as the ink and the printing go. That is because that is meant to indicate it's a different yarn. All of the outside and all the same stuff is going to be different, but the yarn specifically is going to be slightly different in color per batch number.